Good morning, everyone. Good morning. You've just been taking some bites. You have energy. The Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, the commissioners present, members of the management team, media, and fellow Ugandans who might be watching us. On behalf of the Electoral Commission, I'm pleased to welcome you all here for purposes of updating the country about the final preparations for the conduct of administrative units, that is LOC1 and LOC2, as well as women councils and committees elections from village to national level for women elections. As we recall, the Commission launched the above electoral program on the 22nd of June 2026 on these very grounds, and we have since then successfully conducted and concluded a number of critical preparatory activities. These include verification of residents and compilation of the village residents registers, as well as the village women registers, which exercise was conducted from Monday, the 6th of July, to Friday, 10th of July 2026, in all the 71,214 villages across the country. The registration exercise covered the compilation or preparation of two registers, namely the village council register for purposes of electing the village chairperson and approval of members of the village executive committee. The second register was for the village women's council registers for purposes of electing the village women's committees. The next exercise that has been also successfully concluded is the display of the village council registers and the village women's council registers, which was conducted from the 13th to 14th of July 2026. This enabled all residents to check and confirm the correctness of their particulars, such as names, national ID number or application ID number, age, gender, and village of residence. It also enabled or allowed the residents to report to the village election officials any ineligible person who may have been registered or found entry on the village register for removal on grounds that either the person is not a resident or is not of age, 18 years or above, or is not a citizen. On behalf of the Electoral Commission, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the residents in all their villages across the country and our various stakeholders who mobilized the residents for your active participation and valuable contribution to the exercise of compiling the village residents registers. Your commitment, cooperation, and timely support were instrumental in the successful completion of this important activity. Your participation has also been critical in achieving accurate and reliable registers for use during these elections. The third phase of activity was that of nomination of candidates. The nomination of candidates for election of the village chairpersons and members of the village women committees were conducted from Wednesday 15th to Sunday 19th of July 2026 at the respective sub-county or town council or municipal division headquarters across the country. The Electoral Commission wishes to congratulate all the persons who are successfully nominated as candidates for these elections. The Commission appreciates the political parties and organizations for presenting candidates for these elective positions, as well as those persons who presented themselves as independent candidates. Handling of complaints. During the exercise of compilation registers and nomination of candidates, some stakeholders in the electoral processes have raised and reported various concerns and complaints regarding the eligibility of some of the candidates or the residents. The issues require the Commission's attention to ensure the credibility and integrity of the display exercise as required by the law. Some of the complaints, particularly those relating to compiled registers, were handled by the respective parish complaints committees. Other complaints, including those arising out of the nomination exercise, have been referred to the Commission for hearing and determination. And if I'm not mistaken, as soon as this press conference is over, we are going to entertain those petitions in our boardroom. And I think I'm told some of the parties are here. Warabaziza misango gy'okwemulugunya mu kalulu kabayirosi abali wano gye muli abalala bali eri kale tunamaliriza olukungaana luno lw'abamawulire tugenda kuyingira mu nsonga zammwe. The Commission will commence hearing the said complaints today and will inform the stakeholders of the respective complaints as far as the decisions of the Commission are concerned and the appropriate lawful decisions or action to be taken. The Commission wishes to appeal for patience from the public and all stakeholders as it commences to hear and determine these complaints arising from the registration. But I want in particular to thank the people of Uganda who have warmly and enthusiastically embraced this exercise. I think the level of interest and the enthusiasm exhibited by the people have dried the words on the mouth of those who say people will not embrace these elections because they are by lining up. So I want to commend the people of Uganda for having so far conducted yourselves in a very peaceful manner. The next phase in this journey is the campaigns. The campaign meetings for election of village women committees started on Monday, the 20th of July, and will be concluded today, 22nd July. As you recall, the Commission appointed the 23rd of July, which is tomorrow, as the polling day for election of village women committees, which comprises the following 5 members, as by law: the chairperson, vice chairperson, the secretary, publicity secretary, and secretary for finance. Polling shall take place in a public or open place within each village and shall be by lining behind the nominated candidates or their representatives or their portraits or symbols in accordance with Section 111 subsection 2 of the Local Governments Act. The Commission appeals to all women who registered for these elections to turn up in large numbers and vote peacefully for their leaders at the village level. By taking part in these grassroots elections, you help strengthen democracy, promote inclusive leadership, and contribute to the leadership to the development of your communities. We therefore urge all eligible women to actively participate and elect leaders who represent your interests and champion issues affecting women in our communities. Let me also emphasize, if you never registered as a resident in your village, please don't waste time tomorrow. If you're a woman, to go to the polling station or polling venue because you are not a voter, since you've never registered as a willing member of the village council. As for LC1 elections, that is for chairperson elections, these candidates were also nominated during the period of 15th to 19th of July. And I think the exercise has been successfully concluded. The successful candidates are now conducting their campaigns in their respective villages across the country, and we want to appreciate the media who have taken pictures or recordings of these activities and splashed them on our screens. We really appreciate the media for doing that. These campaign meetings for elections of the village chairperson shall be held for a period of 8 days. That is from 20th July, which was yesterday, until 27th of July. The campaign meetings or public rallies shall only be conducted within the stipulated time, that is from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. on each of the campaign days. And the campaigns will take place and be limited to within the village of the candidate. I mean, if you are contesting this village, why do you cross over to the next village? Campaign for what? Those people are not going to vote for you. So remain within the confines or the boundaries of the village where you want to be elected as chairperson. Again, to remind ourselves, polling or voting for the village chairperson shall take place on Tuesday, 28th of July, in all the villages throughout Uganda. And each village, as mentioned earlier, is a polling station for purposes of these elections. Voting will be conducted also in a public or open place within the village and shall start at 7 a.m. And when we say 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., we are not saying that that is the hour set cast in stone. But we are saying, given the various processes that will take place, we anticipate by 4 p.m. it should have been concluded. For avoidance of doubt, the following program shall guide the flow of activities on polling day starting tomorrow for the women elections. Between 7 to 10 a.m., all the registered residents shall assemble at the polling point or center for purposes of verification that you are indeed a resident registered in this village or in the village register and therefore eligible to vote. Between 7 and 10, that activity will take place tomorrow and even 28th. Between 10 and 11, after verification of eligible voters, the presiding officer shall conduct voter education and brief the voters generally on the voting procedures at that station and take any questions, if any, for purposes of clarification. Then at 11 a.m., throughout the country in all the 71 polling stations, voting shall start by the candidates being required to line facing in front and for the voters to line behind them, or the portraits, or their representatives. But although the law allows for that process, there is a snag though, that if a candidate is not present in person, and the law says that after the chairperson elect has been declared, the next step is for the chairperson elect to nominate members of his cabinet or executive from the people present, from the members of the village council, the residents. Now, if a candidate is absent and the people line up behind his representative or photograph or whatever, party symbol, now who will nominate the members of the executive who will nominate the members of the executive. Because this has to be done by the chairperson elect. The portrait cannot nominate. So that's where we want to appeal to all candidates, try as much as possible to turn up in person, because there's a very important process you have to preside over. The first sitting of your village council is to nominate members of the executive committee who have to be approved by the village council, and the village council are the residents of that village who are registered in the register. So we want you to participate in person. Then after we anticipate this polling and counting of voters should take place between 11 and 11:30. Then from 11:30 to about 12 noon, the presiding officer will fill the EC form, the form EC10, and declare the chairperson elect. Then from between 12 to 4 p.m., the chairperson elect will nominate members of his or her executive committee, and each one approved by members of the village council by show of hands. The members of the village council have a right to reject the nominee by the chairperson. The positions to be nominated, or the persons to be nominated by the village chairperson, are to fill these positions. 1, vice chairperson, who shall also be secretary for children welfare. 2, the general secretary. 3, secretary for information, education, and mobilization. 4, secretary for security. 5, secretary for finance. 6, secretary for production and environmental protection. Furthermore, the committee members below shall join the village executive committee by virtue of being elected as chairpersons of the respective village committees of special interest groups whose elections have already taken place. These include the chairperson of the village youth council, who shall also be the secretary for youth on LC1 village committee. Then you have the chairperson of the village women council, who will be elected tomorrow, and this shall be the secretary for women and the public health coordinator on the LC1 executive committee. Then you have the chairperson of the organization for persons with disabilities at the village, who was elected in the recently concluded general elections, who shall be the secretary for persons with disabilities affairs on the village executive committee. Then we have the chairperson of the village council of older persons, who was also elected in the recent general elections, who shall be the secretary for the council for older persons. The Electoral Commission has issued comprehensive guidelines to enable stakeholders to participate in the entire electoral program, which is progressive in nature. That is from the village to the parish in the case of administrative units, and from village to national level in the case of women councils and committees. The Commission therefore urges all aspiring candidates and stakeholders to familiarize or acquaint themselves with the relevant laws and guidelines in order to appreciate their respective roles and responsibilities before, during, and after these elections. The Commission wishes to appeal to all political parties and organizations to study this electoral program and undertake necessary preparatory activities, which they have already done. Because if there is any political party which has not yet identified the flag bearer, too late, that process is closed already. We are also further reminded that elections are taking place in an Ebola environment, and therefore we are required to observe the Ministry of Health guidelines to combat the spread of the virus. In conclusion, the Commission urges all Ugandans to participate in these elections and to do so in accordance with the law, good conduct, civility, tolerance to one another, and the guidelines issued by the Commission for each activity. This will ensure a smooth electoral exercise. Basebo ne banyabo